When Prince Harry's jet pierced through the heavy London clouds that night, the city below was already electric with speculation. Flashes from camera lenses flickered outside Buckingham Palace like lightning. Journalists huddled in the cold, whispering about one thing, the private royal summit that could erase a title and rewrite royal history. This wasn't about charity appearances or family visits. This was Judgment Day. Hours earlier, the palace had released a short statement, measured, polished, but devastating. It said the monarchy had begun a constitutional review of royal privileges and titles. 6 bland words that carried the weight of an earthquake. Everyone knew exactly who it meant. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex were under scrutiny once again. And this time, even palace insiders admitted this was serious. Behind those golden gates, the tone had shifted. King Charles, known for his patience, was done waiting. After years of scandals, interviews, and explosive memoirs, he wanted to draw a line. Aides said the king had grown cold on the subject of his youngest son, referring to him not as Harry, but simply the Sussex situation. Even that phrase, clinical and detached, told its own story. And yet, while the palace was bracing for battle, Harry was already on his way. His flight from California left quietly, without press or entourage. No Meghan, no Netflix cameras, no smiles. Just a prince who once renounced royal life, now returning to fight for the only identity he'd ever known. When the plane touched down at Heathrow, the air was thick with tension. Bodyguards moved swiftly, cameras flashed, and for a moment it felt like the world had turned back time. But this wasn't the triumphant return of a royal son. This was the return of an exile. He was whisked through a side gate, hidden from sight, his expression unreadable. Later that evening, inside Clarence's house, the confrontation began. It started calm. Small talk, awkward silences, a few restrained smiles. But beneath that civility was a storm years in the making. When King Charles finally spoke, his words were precise. "Harry, the situation has reached a point where public duty must come before personal pain." Harry clenched his jaw. "Duty?" he snapped. "My entire life has been duty. And when I chose my family over that duty, you turned your back." The king's voice didn't rise. "You made choices, my son, and choices have consequences." Aides outside the door described raised voices, footsteps pacing, the thud of a hand hitting a desk. Then came the sound of another door opening. Prince William entered quietly, face set, eyes sharp. He'd come uninvited, but no one dared stop him. What happened next would define their brotherhood forever. Harry turned, glaring. "You!" he said, voice shaking with fury. "You think I don't know this was your idea?" William didn't deny it. "It wasn't my idea," he said coolly. "It was inevitable. You made it inevitable." The air crackled. Harry accused him of betraying him to the press, of feeding stories that made him look reckless. William shot back. "You did that yourself. You and your interviews, your documentaries, your book. You've spent years tearing this family down. Now you want to hide behind its titles?" The argument spiraled. At one point, Charles reportedly stood and shouted, "Enough!" It was the first time in years anyone had heard the king raise his voice. For a few seconds, the room fell silent. 3 men, father and sons, divided by truth, pride, and pain. Harry's voice softened. "I never wanted to lose my family," he said. "I just wanted to live free." Charles looked at him, exhausted. "You wanted freedom," he said quietly, "and that's what we gave you. But freedom does not come with titles." That line hit like a blade. The meeting ended shortly after, without resolution, without reconciliation. When Harry stepped outside into the London night, cameras caught him only for a second, his face pale, his jaw tight, his hands trembling. The image went viral in minutes. "Broken Prince." Read one headline, "Harry faces royal reckoning," said another, and back in California, Meghan saw it all unfold in real time. According to friends, she was furious, not just at the palace, but at Harry himself. She'd urged him not to go, to let the lawyers handle it, to stay above the drama. Now, she was watching the biggest royal crisis in decades play out without her control. She called her team immediately. Crisis management, publicists, Strategists, everyone was on standby. Within hours, an anonymous source close to the Duchess gave a statement to an American magazine. Meghan is saddened that personal family matters are being politicized. The message was clear. She was painting herself as the victim again, but this time, the public didn't buy it. British media mocked the response. Online forums exploded with comments calling it tone deaf. Even some of her supporters admitted they were tired of the same script. As the backlash grew, the palace doubled down. A new report surfaced that Parliament would soon debate reforms allowing the monarchy to revoke titles from non-working royals. In other words, if Harry and Meghan weren't serving the crown, they could lose their royal status entirely. And this time, it wouldn't just be the king's call, it would be the people's. Imagine it. Members of Parliament debating whether to strip the king's own son of his title, televised live across the nation. Analysts called it the most radical royal moment in a century. One lawmaker even told the press, the monarchy must modernize or risk losing its moral authority. And so, the countdown began. London turned into a stage of whispers and leaks. Palace staff traded rumors, tabloids spun wild theories, and news anchors dissected every detail. But while the world obsessed over titles, something deeper was breaking inside Harry himself. Sources close to him say he spent nights alone in his London townhouse, calling old friends who didn't answer, sending messages to staff who'd once protected him. No one replied. It was as if the royal world had closed its gates for good. Meanwhile, Meghan was facing her own reality check. Hollywood had grown colder. The production deals that once poured in were drying up. One insider said, "People are tired of the royal drama. It doesn't sell like it used to." For the first time since stepping away from the palace, Meghan's brand was losing its glow. Even the streaming giant that produced their docuseries had quietly moved on. And when the headlines shifted back to London, she realized something chilling the story was no longer about them fighting the system. It was about them being erased from it. Then came the day everything changed. Parliament convened for a special session. The debate was fiery, emotional, historic. Some argued that removing titles would set a dangerous precedent. Others claimed it was necessary to protect the monarchy's credibility. As the session streamed live, millions watched from around the world. In California, Meghan sat with her team, watching every word in London. Harry watched alone. Reporters described him as visibly shaken. One even claimed he whispered to an aide, "Mom would have stopped this." But there was no stopping it now. After hours of discussion, the vote was cast. It wasn't final, but it was decisive enough. Parliament passed a motion recommending that the Crown proceed with reviewing the titles of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The next step, royal assent, meaning the decision now rested solely with King Charles. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man who'd spent his life seeking his father's approval now had his future in his father's hands. Outside Buckingham Palace, crowds gathered. Some chanted in support of Harry. Others waved British flags, shouting, "Protect the crown." The divide was deeper than ever. Even global media split. American outlets portrayed Harry as the tragic rebel, British papers as the fallen prince who'd gone too far. That night, as London's skyline glowed gold and blue, Harry met privately with one of his last remaining allies inside the institution. According to sources, the conversation was brief but haunting. "There's no going back," the aide told him. "The machine's already moving." Harry nodded, silent. The next morning, the Royal Press Office released a final statement. It read simply, "The Duke and Duchess of Sussex will no longer use their royal titles in any formal capacity. This decision was made with the support of His Majesty the King." Within minutes, the world stopped. Every TV network cut to breaking news. The anchors spoke in hushed tones. It was done. No more Duke, no more Duchess, just Harry and Meghan. The couple who walked away from the crown had finally been cut loose. In London, bells rang for other royal duties, but not for this. In California, cameras waited outside their mansion, hoping for a glimpse. Meghan didn't appear. Harry released a short statement that read, "Titles never defined who we are. Our family, our love, and our truth remain unchanged." Noble words, but the world could see the pain behind them. The man once born into destiny now stood stripped of it. No rank, no title, no role, just a name and a story that had shaken 1,000 years of tradition. Yet, even as the dust settled, one question lingered louder than all the noise. Had the monarchy finally protected itself, or had it just created its greatest ghost? Because no matter how hard the palace tried to move on, the image of a lonely prince walking away from the gates of Clarence house would haunt history forever.